So, as hopefully you'll all be able to see, this is my new head unit, and what I have is two RCA cables coming out of here, running along the top of the glove box section. You won't actually be able to see anything from in here, but I may be able to show you something in here. I mean, to be honest, you probably can't see much in here, but basically, here's one of the RCA cables here. The RCA's come across the top of the glove box, down through this channel. You'll probably have to take this piece of trim off in order to thread them down. And then they come through here and under this carpet section. Now what I would say is, if you are taking this off, make sure you take this sort of under tray out first. I didn't, and whilst it is perfectly feasible to take this off without first removing this, you may find, as I did, that you end up snapping one of the securing lugs at the top. Now fortunately, the securing lug that I snapped is right up in there, so it doesn't really make a difference, and the one sort of around here is fine, so it doesn't rattle, but it's just something to bear in mind. We then have all of these cables, which is two RCA wires, a speaker wire for the front, and then later on flat subwoofer cable, as well as the ignition circuit going through here. But I'll just try and show you as much of this as I can. So in here, this is obviously the ignition wire, speaker cable, RCA cable, RCA cable. And if you look in here, you may be able to see how I've cut the original BMW wiring and crimped on the speaker cable so that I don't have to rewire anything through the doors. And then the MB Quart stuff that I bought literally just screws into these areas, and there's a crossover that sticks to the inside of the door around here somewhere, just behind this tray. It's very easy to do. So these cables then just come through here. They're joined by that flat subwoofer cable that I showed you earlier, which connects to the underseat subwoofers in here, you know, on the floor. It comes up through this trim piece. Again, this is really easy to take off. You just need to unclip with a pry, you know, one of these pry tools, this thing, and there'll be a couple of screws, I think, if I recall, that you can take off. But basically the whole of this comes out. You don't need to worry about affecting the retaining seatbelt unit if you've got one, because it's all built into here. So the cables run up through this piece of trim and then under this seat. If you've never taken one of these out before, there's a metal retaining clip here and a metal retaining clip here. You will feel like you're going to break it, but I promise you won't. Just put both of your hands under this corner and lift as hard as you can until it pops out. The first time you do it will probably be quite difficult, and then do the same on this side, and it will lift up, and you'll be able to lift the whole thing out and shove it over there somewhere. So all of my speaker cables go under the seat and underneath this hinged section and into the boot, which I'll show you now. Cables are a bit of a mess at the moment, because I want to make sure everything's sorted before I think about cable management. So you can see that the two RCA cables come out, as well as the front passenger side speaker cable and the front passenger side subwoofer cable, as well as the ignition wire. And on the driver side, you just got the same, but for the right hand speakers. They all come in, and I've got the amp in this under boot lid boot space here, which I've not taken the plastic cellophane off yet, and I probably should. There we go. I still need to mount this on, which I'm going to do down here. And the cable arrangement's quite convenient, because the power cable is kept away from the speaker cables to as much an extent as I think I can manage. if I could go back, I think what I would probably do is run the ignition circuit through the steering column and down the driver's side of the car to keep it away from all of these cables on the left. But I'm not going to rerun it all just for the sake of sorting that out. I'll show you this as well. So behind this panel, which you remove just by unscrewing this lug, pulling it out, is the battery, if you've not seen it before. So the the power cable for the amp just goes into this positive terminal, up through this piece of trim. Underneath it's quite flexible, even though it's screwed in you can lift it up, and then around underneath this bit and just down. You need to wire this fuse in, which comes with that Vibe kit I mentioned, and that just plugs in. The reason I've done it like that, wait for the car to go past, is because there's a piece of aluminium sort of chassis, a lip that goes through here, and it would be pretty easy to just hacksaw a chunk out, but I didn't want to do that, so I've done it that way. The grounding wire, it's obviously connected here. I originally had it connected to the negative battery terminal, but it was causing a ground loop and lots of interference, so I rewired it to this chassis lug here, and it's disappeared since, so that's good. I've also since read that you should never ground things to the negative battery terminal, so I don't know if it was a fluke or not, but certainly moving it over there has solved the problem for me. And whilst I'm here, because you were asking about wiring kits, I've actually got some offcuts still from the wiring kit I bought. So this is the flat subwoofer speaker cable that comes with it. I'm fairly sure it's proper, it's out of focus, I'm fairly sure it's proper oxygen free copper and not copper plated tin as you get in some kits. It's a reasonable gauge, and it seems very well made. Unfortunately I don't think you can buy this separately, otherwise I would have done, rather than using this basic speaker cable for the fronts. So that's the you get 2 5-meter lengths of this to use, which is more than enough to stretch to the subwoofers under the seats. I think these are the lengths that I've got left, and there's, as you can see, there's quite a lot still. This is the power cable that comes with the amp. It's rated as 8 gauge, but you can make your own mind up as to that. This is what it looks like. Seems pretty decent, seems quite well made. Nice rubberized coating. The ground cable I don't have any spares of because it's quite short, but I mean you don't need anything else. And that's about it. I don't really have anything else to show you. So if you've got anything that you want to ask, let me know and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Bye.